Welcome to the Make Space for Growth podcast. My name is Sara Vicente Barreto and I'm your host. I'm a corporate strategist, problem solver, social entrepreneur, writer, mom of two and passionate for growth, at home, in business or in my community. This is season 1 of the Make Space for Growth podcast, Finding Growth in a Crisis. In this season, I've asked amazing women leaders to join me in a fireside chat about how they have dealt with lockdown. We will spend some time learning about their businesses and how they have coped or not with lockdown. Lockdown, shelter at home, or whatever it may have been called in your country. For me, this has been an inspiring time. I find crisis can create excellent opportunities for cleansing, decluttering, and finding new avenues. At home and in your business, crisis can make space for growth. Join me for this journey to find out how, because it is time for hope and light. Joining me on this launch episode, I have Filipa Munoz de Oliveira. Filipa was born in Lisbon in the hot summer of 1975. She studied management at Universidade Católica, which makes us kind of rivals. Her first job was at Jerónimo Martins at a private label management for Feira Nova, a large supermarket chain. At age 25, she got married and moved to New York, where she spent 2 years working as a junior advisor at Christie's, the auction house. The family then moved to London, and Filipa went to work at the Sky B in the Sky Media department. She had her first child, now 17, in London. In 2007, they moved to Lisbon, and Filipa launched Wink, a service that she had gotten to know and love in London. In 2010, Filipa had her second child. With such an introduction, we have a lot to work on this interview, so I'll go straight to it. Filipa, this is our first episode of the season, so I thought we would start with an icebreaker before we talk business. So, what was your favorite thing to do as a child, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
Hello, Sarah. Thank you for having me in your first podcast. Thank you so much for the invitation. Well, do you know what? I was very girly when I was little, and I loved playing with dolls, supermarkets, and also because we had a big group of cousins. We also loved to play spy all the time. We spent hours and hours afternoon playing spy against each other. So that was different childhood from today.
You consider joining the MI5 then?
Completely. I still love, I'm obsessed, Homeland, like the series and everything. I love it. Still love it.
So what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, do you know, I wanted to work for a supermarket chain. And it was actually my first job. I was obsessed with supermarkets. I loved. So I wanted to be the clerk, like the girl that's in the checkout counter.
So that's funny because you did go and end up being, in close contact with a supermarket. Career has taken a few turns and you ended up founding Wink. So can you tell us a bit more about Wink, how you founded it and what the business is about?
Well, Wink, to be honest with you, at the beginning, I met the threading method, if you can say that, in London, when I was living in London. And I loved it and made all my friends come when they were coming to visit me to try it out. And I loved it. I was obsessed. And when we decided to move back to Portugal, my first thought was like, oh my God, where I'm going to have my eyebrows thread. No one in Lisbon does this. So Wink started like this, just like a selfish, wanted to have a place to go to have my eyebrow threads. And suddenly it became a business. Like clients loved it. We were growing like every day, more clients and more clients. So we decided, okay, let's try another store. And we grew like this, I never ever thought about Wink as a business at the beginning. It was just something new to try. And then suddenly we have 35 shops in Portugal, 15 in Brazil, 2 in Spain, 1 in Angola, and suddenly we have 200 plus employees, and it's a business.
Well, I think I'm very pleased with your selfish, start.
Exactly.
I personally tried to go a few times, and it's always very hard to get a slot. But I am a fan, so I understand your concern. So you have one of those businesses that it was particularly affected during COVID, and so let's go straight to it. I know at this point, COVID sometimes feels a little bit like old news, but I think there's still a lot we can talk about that. When lockdown hit the country, what happens to your teams? What measures did you have to do? How did you handle your suppliers? I know that's a lot of questions, but if you can talk a little bit more on how suddenly your day-to-day changed, that would be great.
Well, when we decided to close the stores, we decided before we were obliged to do it. That decision was very, very hard. I never thought, well, Wink has 13 years. So that was a very tough decision. I remember the day that I decided to close the shops and I was emailing the teams. I was crying and crying. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop crying. And my children would look at me like, what's going on? Because at that time, schools were closed. I was at home, working from home. Everyone in the office was working from home. And I was sending everyone to work. And I couldn't sleep. I was thinking, it's not safe anymore for them. So I didn't feel okay to sending them every day to work when everyone was talking about. No one knew exactly what would happen with shopping malls and everything. But I decided, I don't care. I'm going to close the stores. That was very tough, but I'm glad we did it when we did it. I think Portugal, in that sense, most stores closed before government asked us to do it. So I think because we were the last country to have cases in Europe, I guess everyone saw what's going on in Spain, in Italy. So I think that most business owners were quite, responsible in doing that. So we closed before I explained. I think when I closed the stores, they were quite happy and relieved I did it. So I received a lot of thank you messages from them. And that made me feel, okay, I'm doing the right thing. Basically, we had two situations, the office and then the stores. Everyone from the office stayed working from home. The employees from the stores, we put them in layoff because it's impossible with the stores closed, no money coming in to keep them like that. So they went for layoff and half of the team still is in layoff. With the suppliers, what we do, well, again, there are different suppliers. There are a few suppliers that we immediately froze, like media, social media, design, like more kind of that kind of stuff. We put it on hold, like the music in the stores. There were others that we had to keep on working with them, right? IT, insurance, all that kind of stuff that we still had to work with them. I think they were quite good. I think everyone was very good and understanding. Because suddenly when you have a client coming to you saying, look, sorry, I'm not going to pay for the next, I don't know how long, because we didn't know at the time for how long it's going to be. And they were all quite understanding, actually. But it was very tough to handle all that.
I guess your hardest negotiation was maybe on the landlord side, because obviously you have a lot of retail space that you weren't using anymore. Did you have a concerted action as all of your colleagues in the shopping mall?
Yes, we decided to join forces because it hasn't been easy. Some shopping malls have been very understanding and we have discounts. We didn't pay for the months we were closed. There are a few that are not as helpful. And it has been difficult, very difficult to deal with that, and we're still ongoing. We've opened our stores on the 4th of May. Our first stores, we didn't open them all at the same time, but we haven't paid rent yet. It's like we can't afford it right now, so we're holding on that to see how it goes.
So you had this side of the employees and the shops being closed, and then obviously you had all the other side of the people that were no longer coming to your shops, and you kind of left the customers for a period. How did you find ways to keep in touch? Did you find new ways to stay close to clients? Did you create any sort of virtual engagement or find ways to help people through this lockdown and to be close to them?
At the beginning, when we closed the stores, we just did a communication telling that due to this unseen situation, we decided to close the stores for everyone's safety, and we received tons of messages from clients really thanking us for that money's not everything. Thank you for taking care of us. And so that was good. And then for a while, to be honest with you, we didn't say anything. I just said to the marketing department, I don't know what to say. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you going to say? That just keep your eyebrows beautiful while you're stuck at home. You didn't know what was going on. It was difficult because literally, like, what do we communicate as a brand? And so probably for the first week and a half, 2 weeks, we didn't say a thing. And then after that, we started with messages like, we'll be back. This is very tough on all of us, but thank you for being with us. We'll be back. And little by little, we start communicating with them again. Then we realized that they would ask us questions like, okay, but I miss you. What should I do with my lashes? Or what should I do with my brows? Or can I buy this product? Can I? And so we started to have a more normal conversation with them all through social media. Then we decided that we don't have a proper online shop. And so we had to make partnerships with other sites so we could sell our brand. And that went well. So basically, that's what we did.
So you created a new product line.
We already had a product line. We just had a new channel to sell them because we couldn't sell them through our stores. So basically, we went to partners that could sell those products for us, and that's what we did.
That's a new avenue that you might not have thought of before.
Exactly.
So, Filipa, you spoke a little bit about how you reopened some of the shops, and so, the same way as you spoke about the lockdown and when you have to shut down and those tough days, how was the reverse like? I'm living in London, things here are still pretty shut down. How did you prepare yourself for reopening? Can you share a bit of the experience you had for the first few days? And how did the day-to-day of the business change?
Well, the first 2 weeks was like a punch in the stomach. It's like, oh my God, our shops are closed. We don't know for how long. We work with a thread in our mouth. How are we going to come back from this? And then I decided to, with a team of supervision and a few of the managers from the stores, we decided to think, look, we need to come up with a new way of working because we're not going to be able to open and work the way we used to. It's impossible because probably we're going to have to wear masks. We came up with, instead of putting your thread in your mouth, just put it around your neck. And you'll do it in the same way. And then you can wear a mask. So basically, that's what they did through the 2 months they were at home. They were just practicing the new technique. And then all the other, because all the health minister and all that, we had like very serious procedures that we had to follow. Because of the nature of our business, we already had a few in place, but more for our employees than for the customers itself. So then we had to change the way they worked. All the procedures now, they have lists of things to do when they get to the store during the day. They are with each client. They have to do a few little things that they didn't have to before. It completely changed the way they work. At the beginning, they were quite nervous and it was tough. When we first opened, like the first few days, they were super nervous. But I think the clients were so understanding because they know them. And so suddenly you come into a shop where you have to clean your hands, sit one chair in one specific chair. It's all clean. They're all wearing masks and all that stuff, that I think they start realizing, okay, this is the new normal. We have to work with this. Now it's going well. They're used to it. What it changed a lot in terms of office work and the stores itself is that suddenly you manage day by day. You don't think next week. You think tomorrow. If something happens, if someone gets sick, what do you do? Or my husband, we had cases already of a girl that works with my husband got sick. What do we do? And it's like, okay, I need to send this girl home. And so you just manage day by day, suddenly, instead of planning a week, probably, like by week by week.
But it's interesting because you mentioned, that they've learned this new way of threading, which in a way sounds, much more hygienic for the person doing it as well.
Yeah.
So let's leave aside disinfecting the chair, all the protection. But when it goes back to normal, do you think this is a new way in which you'll do the threading?
I think probably we'll stay working like this. It's a bit more expensive for us. You use more thread, but I think eventually we will do it like this. We'll end up doing it like that.
That's a new one for you.
Exactly.
Let's see if some of our friends in London here listen and start learning as well and practicing at home on how they're going to do it, right? Because that's quite a bit of innovation there, because it's not straightforward at all. Yes. So you spoke a little bit about new ways of working in the shops, which is your main outlet. What about you said your team remained working, your office team remained working. How did you go from being sitting next to each other to being remote? What did you have any new things that you implemented? How was it to suddenly start working remotely?
Well, I think that like everyone, we start using Zoom a lot. So basically, our weekly meeting went to a regular meeting to Zoom meeting. So we start working like that. For supervision was a bit harder because they used to be in the stores all the time. So they were at home, but we kept, we always kept in touch, always, through WhatsApp, through Zoom, or phone calls. After the lockdown, like those 14 days that you had to stay at home, we started coming to the office, but like you come in the morning, then the two other come in the afternoon. So, and that's what we're doing now. We're doing schedules. So either by week, we're doing it by week. 1 week, someone comes in the morning and the next week comes in the afternoon. We keep on doing Zoom sessions whenever we need it. And it was a change because you had people here that work with me that probably never had a video call in their lives. You know what I mean? Like a video conference. So it was also quite a challenge for them. So I think that was good for them, for the team here in the office.
Yeah, there's been quite a bit of learning going on.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned in the beginning, crises they're rough. No question on that. But they're also a bit of an opportunity. And you spoke already about 2 new things you've implemented in your business that you may keep. So, in line with the idea of this podcast, finding growth in a crisis, can you talk a little bit about, new things you found and you want to do different going forward, and maybe some old habits that you don't need and want to ditch?
Definitely, we learn a new way of working, so that we're going to keep on doing it. Also, personally, I felt that I became more patient with stuff, and I think that I found ways in me to be more to be stronger in terms of dealing with the team. Because when we first closed the shops, I thought, oh my God, I'm not gonna stand up. I was really suffering. I was really struggling with this. But then suddenly I thought, whoa, I cannot be like this with the team. They cannot feel my anxiety or my fears. I have to overcome this. And so it made me feel even more responsible for them. You know what I mean? I was the person, because it was not just my team, but also I have franchise. And all the franchisees were super nervous. It's funny because I always thought of myself as a good boss and a good leader, but I never thought that I could do this. You know what I mean? Like I have like 10 franchise they have their own business, so they should be able to cope with this. And I really felt that I helped them going through this. So this was especially for me, this was quite a growth. Even if at the beginning I was super anxious, I was nervous, I was afraid. I cried for 2 weeks, I have to tell you. I cried for 2 weeks. And then suddenly it's like, okay, cry time is over and let's move on. So it was really good for me.
That's great. And So if you look back, and I know, 3 months doesn't feel like a long time, but at the same time, I feel like 3 months ago has been an eternity ago.
Yeah.
Would you, what advice would you give yourself 3 months ago?
Well, if I knew, well, save more. But to be honest, sometimes now, and it makes me realize that now, is that probably you should be more careful sometimes with your priorities at work. Because times were good, you end up risking more and you try new stuff. And let's try this and let's try that agency. Let's see if it goes. Let's try this new line of products. Let's just see. Not be completely risk averse, because it's impossible to be risk averse when you're an entrepreneur, but probably think a bit better where I spend my money.
That sounds like a good one. We've talked a lot about business, but this is also about showing the other side of the amazing leaders we're bringing here. And so let's get into your home a bit, and you've given us a bit of that. I know you're a high-performing entrepreneur, but you also had children at home and you had some homeschooling going on. Can we talk a bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So it's been my life for the last 3 months.
Exactly. You didn't say that you wanted to be a teacher when you grew up, but I guess that's what we all ended up being. So we spoke about already that you're in Lisbon, and so can you just describe a little bit how strong was lockdown there, and how was the school situation, and then what was your family experience in the beginning, and how you adjusted?
Well, I think because we were the last country in Europe to start having cases, I think globally the Portuguese were very responsible. So people start going home before the government told us to. So even schools closed at the same time as Italy. And Italy was already completely out of control. So I think we were quite good about it. At the beginning, it felt, though we didn't know what was going on, it felt good being at home. Like all together, like my husband, João, most of the week he works in Madrid. So he was home with the kids, he was helping me. The kids were super happy to having him home. So first week, great. It's like holidays, we all together, we can sleep a little bit longer. And then it hit us. Oh my God, when we're gonna stay here for how long? And I have to admire all the teachers. At the beginning, we closed on a Wednesday. They didn't give kids anything to do. It was so at those first 5 days, we were at home it's a holiday. They start giving them things to do and classes. And I'm talking about my experience, because at the beginning, they didn't have any Zoom classes. It was all just things that had to do. We started Easter holidays. Again, nothing to do, just sleep a bit more, but business going crazy, everything closed down. And then they started school again. When they started after Easter, was much more organized. So they had Zoom classes, they had the assignments. Lucky for me, I have kids that are very organized. Even the little one, he knows exactly what he needs to do, when he needs to do. Of course, he asks for help, or he gives me, Mom, you have to send this assignment to my teacher. But they are organized. So that was a bit easy for me in that sense, that I didn't have exactly to be a teacher all the time. But of course, when you have to do Zoom meeting, you have 2 children having Zoom classes. And then your husband in the other room also have meetings, and then internet goes out all the time. It's super stressful, super stressful. It's not easy on the family after a while. You see each other all the time, because lockdown, it wasn't as strict here in Portugal like it was, for instance, in Spain, that children couldn't go out. We could go out for a walk. Basically, almost every day we left the house for a little bit, because we live in front of a big park. So we went just for a little walk. So in that sense, it was not oh my God, we cannot leave the house. But in terms of family, why at the beginning, because usually I have a help at home. For those times, I send the lady that works in my house, I send her home, because she's not a live-in. And at the first days, we would have lunch 2:30 in the afternoon, because I would forget. So everyone suddenly was I'm hungry. And I was oh my God, so sorry. We need to do so. Or it was terrible, having dinner at 10 in the evening. And after the first week of chaos, I said, no. Routine again. So they would get up early in the morning, get dressed, go to Zoom class, and like organize. I would have to have lunch ready at 1 because I have Zoom class at 2. So we start doing that routine a bit better. Now we're very good at it. After a while, we're very good at it. At the same time, it's funny because you see your kids in a way that usually you don't see them in like school environment. And that's so funny to watch. They are different when they are at school than when they are with us. So that was super, super good to watch and to be part of that world also.
We've had our experience with Google Classroom. That's what we've been using here for the eldest one. But then she's a bit younger than yours. She's 7. And so there's my solution, if anyone cares to know, is that my desk is half an inch away from her desk to minimize interruptions. And my Zoom camera is positioned in a way that it allows her to run in and out of the room without too much intervention. But she, in time she's kind of learned, oh, I know this person. Oh, hello. And I'm like, Mommy's having a meeting. And she said, and obviously the person on the other side is usually very empathetic. Don't wave back. Just pretend like she's
exactly. She will keep on coming.
Otherwise, she will keep on. She's like, oh, Mommy, but this one is okay. This one is the one I met in the office. I'm like, just because you've been to my office, it doesn't mean that that we're gonna have a chat.
Yeah,
so it's or when you have that team chat, even when it's someone very very strict, and you're having that moment. Oh yeah, I was doing this for the weekend. She immediately thinks it's a personal conversation and jumps into Zoom. So, but I think the solution, and you're right, the solution was absolutely routine, and I had the benefit that. In Portugal, things had closed 2 weeks earlier, and so and we did keep them home earlier because I actually fell ill very early, and so they were home early because London did close very late, and we had nothing from school. We had no work from school. We had no support, and so I was like, right, here's the schedule. So every night I was on my Excel spreadsheet and saying, right, what can she do tomorrow?
True, because you do need routine because otherwise it's chaos. Completely.
Yeah, exactly. There were days where they would be like, Mommy, because today pajama day. I'm like, no, Monday to Friday, no one stays in pajamas.
The first week was all day pajama. I was like kids, please get dressed. Why? Just because I say so. I don't want anyone in their pajamas. Oh, come on, please. So the beginning was a nightmare.
Exactly. So how did you stay productive through all this? Remembering to cook lunch at 2:00 and having to homeschool and send teachers.
That was difficult. So I go to my computer, have my breakfast all by myself in the computer, and I do a bit of that, like more things that I need to be focused on or more important things I do before they wake up. During the day, of course, I have meetings, I work, and then again in the evening, once they go to bed, if I need to do another more focused, I'll go and work a bit. I'm lucky. My kids are very organized. They don't need that much support, so I could work because otherwise it would have been really, really difficult.
So you spoke a little bit about the first 2 weeks being very rough and about strength and finding that strength. There's been quite a bit of talk, especially here in the UK and maybe in Portugal as well, about mental health and how this has had a huge impact, not only in, maybe the teenager angle that feel a lot of this personal isolation, but in general with people not having a lot of space. How did you deal with that? Do you have any tips that you'd like to share? How are your thoughts on this?
As I said, I was terrible in the first 2 weeks or so, but then I realized that either I really have a breakdown and I'm leaving with my kids and they're going to see this, or I just have to step up. And what I did and what I do still is that I don't think too much. You know what I mean? I just leave the moment and I take care of the things that I need to do in that moment, in that day. I'm not thinking that we'll still be wearing masks from 9 months from now or a year from now, and it's going to be terrible, and then I'm gonna be able to hug my friends, or I just don't think about it. You know what I mean? It's like I live day by day or week by week, and I think of the good stuff we have once, because there's also good stuff. We have to think that it's also good stuff to be at home and you don't have schedules and crazy schedules and like, oh my God, I'm late to pick them from school. There's also good things. I can have a Zoom meeting just wearing a t-shirt and underneath I don't have anything. There's good things from this. So that's what I try not to think too much of the bad things, because I have friends that are really struggling and they're really fed up with all this and being at home with the kids and husbands. I try not to think about it, to be honest with you. I enter my Zen kind of more calm mood. I think that's my way to do it.
I think that's probably one of the few ways that you can cope with one like this, especially when you really don't know where this is going to end up.
Exactly.
We spoke a bit about the growth opportunities in business. You started speaking about how good it is not to have to be in traffic and to be at home. What was your kind of biggest growth area or new thing that you found by being at home all this time?
I think was that strength that I said, that basically also with the kids, in terms of making sure they were comfortable and they felt safe at home, and they were actually quite calm about it. They heard the news all the time at what was going on, and it's scary for them. My daughter, she's almost 17 and she can understand, and even Frederico is 10 and he sees the news. He knows what's going on. That was being strong for them, and also I think I became a better leader at home. I had to keep my team safe and comfortable, and they had to trust me that things were going to be better, because they're at home. They don't know what I'm going to do. They don't know how much money I have. They don't know anything. So they just have to trust me that things are going to be better. To be honest with you, that's what I felt. I think that I became a better leader.
It's an amazing gain that you have at the end of it, I guess. Filipa, I've taken quite a bit of your time, which I really appreciate and really enjoyed. So I reserved as a little lightning round that I didn't really tell you about. So you just have to shoot a short answer on the first word that comes to mind. Just 5 quick questions. Favorite lockdown book?
It's the latest Isabella Allende's book.
Lockdown sport?
Ooh, yeah. No, I trained 3 times a week. So basically just regular training with my PT.
Lockdown favorite technology?
Ooh, my phone. No. Lockdown, it had to be Zoom. Zoom was my favorite one.
Lockdown greatest lesson?
Greatest lesson. Well, you shouldn't take anything for granted. Enjoy the little things.
Absolutely. And if you had one word to describe lockdown, what would that be?
Challenging.
Let's hope we win this one.
Yes.
Filipa, this has been great to have a chat with you today. I appreciate your time to be here with us today for our for the first season and the first episode of the first season. So that's been great. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to coming over to Wink.
Exactly, we'll be waiting.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. This is our very first season, so your support would be great. Please rate us and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. And if you think a friend would like to hear this, hit the share button now. You can read more at makespaceforgrowth.com or join our Facebook free community and access weekly tips on growth. Please share your thoughts and questions on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. I will add links to the show notes. It's been a pleasure to bring this fireside chat to you today. I'm grateful you are there. I get to do this.